Welcome back to When Bad Things Happen to Good People, a podcast about censorship and the arts. My name is Todd Sullivan. With me, as always, is Oren Barter.
Hey.
And with us, not as always, but because it's a special occasion, is Carlo.
Hey, everybody, I'm back.
And since Carlo is here, there's only one thing we could be talking about, and that's Jesus. So today we're talking about the Last Temptation of Christ.
Yay.
I don't know. I didn't count how many temptations he had in total.
But this one was about the last one.
Well, I mean, there were many throughout the film, but the pivotal one was the last one.
Right. Yeah. And I gotta say, Mel Gibson did a good job on this film.
Uh-oh, you may have watched the wrong film.
That didn't hit nearly as funny as the first time.
No, we were all much more liquored the first time you did that joke. That might have helped the delivery.
And we weren't expecting it.
We weren't expecting it.
I wasn't even expecting to say the joke the first time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you want to give it one more try?
Sure.
All right.
You know what? I gotta say, Mel Gibson did a pretty goddamn good job with this film.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. No, you watched the wrong movie.
Oh, God. I feel like I'm part of an 80s sitcom. You guys just have your hands on your waist. You're like, you did it again.
Yeah. And then everything freeze frames in the credits.
And there's a saxophone, because there's always a saxophone.
How's things going, Oren?
Pretty good, yeah. Had a long weekend. I had the day off today, and I literally just spent all day in a buzz of self-doubt and hatred. So
sounds exciting.
It was very exciting.
Wow. Way to spend a day off.
Yeah, because I've been feeling way too good about myself lately, and it was really, really good to knock myself down a few pegs.
Absolutely.
How about you? How are you guys?
Pretty well. I missed an audition that I was supposed to do yesterday, and I thought it was today, but that's my fault for putting it in my calendar wrong.
Yeah, I just went to work. Nothing exciting here.
Yeah. You have a beverage today, Oren?
I don't. I couldn't find. I remember I think it was like a couple of weeks ago. I had some 99 bananas, which was like just really shitty sambuca. I didn't finish it, and I thought I still had it, but I went to the freezer and it wasn't there. I was really sad. So my girlfriend is actually just probably back now, maybe. She's just popping in now with a couple of beers that she ran and got for me because she's so sweet.
Oh my Lord, that's amazing.
So I got an Kirin Ichiban, and because she doesn't want me to get too drunk tonight, she got me an original organic lager from the Mill Street Brewery, which is only 4.2%. So I'm gonna chug that one because it's basically water.
Stay hydrated. Yeah.
Well, we're currently sipping Carlo brought over one of his homebrew beers of some flavor or another. He's not sure.
The initials were
Can you
AR.
Can you not tell when you drink it, or have you not drank it?
I forget what we even.
It's dark. It's got kind of a coffee finish on it, so it's probably some kind of like a porter or something, I would guess.
It's a lot better than the first one that we had.
Yeah.
The first one had a lot of floaties in it.
Well, this one could too.
Yeah, I guess this one we haven't really looked for the floaties.
You can't tell if there's floaties or not is the thing. So
that's funny.
Hey, we're here to talk about a movie. Let's talk about movies. We're talking about The Last Temptation of Christ because this is part of our 3-episode Easter crossover between When Bad Things Happen to Good People and Half-Cut Conspiracies, which is where you will normally find Mr. Carlo, our guest this week. And we're talking about The Last Temptation of Christ because it's a churchy movie. It's a religious movie about the life and death and survival and then ultimate death of Jesus. That was not very well received.
So was it banned or was it just kind of not enjoyed?
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
The Last Temptation of Christ is a 1988 film directed by Martin Scorsese, written by Paul Schrader. It stars
Mel
Willem
Gibson.
Dafoe, Harvey Keitel, Barbara Hershey, Harry Dean Stanton, David Bowie, and bunches of other people.
David Bowie. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, he was Pontius Pilate.
Oh, okay. Shit.
Now, Scorsese initially had this film ready to roll in 1983. Wow. And some religious groups got wind of that, and they're like, nope, we do not want you to make this movie. And so even before it was made, people were like trying to stop it.
Wow.
And they did. An organization of Protestant women called the Evangelical Sisterhood distributed newsletters calling all converts to write protest letters to Paramount's parent company, Gulf Western, in an attempt to sabotage the film's production. And ultimately they succeeded, as the corporation started receiving 500 letters a day, and as the budget for the movie started to increase, they were like, as the budget's going up, and as we're getting more and more of these letters, we're like, no, we're not going to do it. So Scorsese went off and made a couple of smaller films to just sort of, keep his eye sharp. And then Paramount came to him, I believe. No, that was Paramount there. Maybe it was Universal that came to him later and said, let's go ahead with this. But he only had a $7 million budget and
fucking penny pinches. Penny pinching.
Well, that's the thing. Like they absolutely were pinching pennies. Like I read an interview with him.
How big is an average? Like, was an average film in the 80s? How much did it cost? $7 million seems high, but
no.
Do you have no? It's not.
They're like
no
20 million, 30 million.
Even in the 80s? Holy shit!
Even in the 80s, totally, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Well, now you're looking at like action movies are in like the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Endgame was like 350 million or something.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And so, yeah, he was talking about how, like, the Roman guards at the end there were, like, Jesus has been arrested, and it's supposed to be, like, guards surrounding the building or whatever. And they only had 5 guards. They just kept reusing the same 5 guards. And those 5 guards were also the same, like, 5 guys who were, like, mad during this the moneylender scene. And, like, they just kept reusing the same guys. He said they had they had 12 costumes and only 5 performers for them because they just couldn't afford any more. Wow. And in fact, like, for example, the shot of Jesus when he's going up on the cross, the shot from, like, behind the crucifix.
As it's raised, being
that's
raised
a good
up,
shot.
yeah.
It is, but they had no way of knowing if they got it because there was no way to see what the camera was catching. There. So it wasn't until that the film got sent back to New York and processed by the editor that they even knew whether or not the shot had worked.
Wow.
And then another interesting thing I found was that the very, very final shot where he dies and the kind of the film goes to white.
Yeah.
That's not an artistic choice. The camera fucking broke.
Oh my God.
And that's what they had to work with. And I think a lot of, like, the way the colors bled in and stuff was probably the artistic choice to make it work better artistically. But that was what they had to work with. And they were only doing about, at the most, 2 to 3 takes because they just had to go so fast.
Wow.
But it came together, I think, pretty well. It's actually, I really like this movie, I will say. But
yeah.
We'll get to our thoughts on it later. Now, once it came out, and it's worth noting actually as well that it is based on a book that was published in 1955 that also had a lot of pushback from religions. It's been banned in places, and
that's so hard to believe because they're usually just so easygoing,
The churches,
live and let live, right?
Totally.
I mean, that's what they're known for, I think.
So if you're wondering, how this film was received, someone lit a theater on fire in Paris that was screening this movie.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, a Catholic group set fire to the St. Michael Cinema in Paris. A little after midnight, an incendiary device ignited under a seat in the less supervised underground room where a different film was being shown. The incendiary device consisted of a charge of potassium chlorate triggered by a vial. I don't know. We don't need to tell people how to build it. 13 people were injured, 4 of whom were severely burned.
Oh, Jesus.
Scorsese received death threats and had to use bodyguards during public appearances for a few years. And of course, a Catholic nun, Mother Angelica of Eternal World Television Network, described The Last Temptation as the most blasphemous ridicule of the Eucharist that's ever been perpetrated in this world, and a Holocaust movie that has the power to destroy souls eternally.
Oh, shit. We're going to hell, guys.
Yeah, no kidding. It was banned or censored in Greece, Turkey, Mexico, Chile, and Argentina. As of July 2010, the film continues to be banned in the Philippines and Singapore. In February 2020, Netflix revealed that the film to be one of the 5 titles that have been removed from the Singapore version of Netflix at the demand of the Singapore government's Infocom Media Development Authority. So yeah, it's been banned. It generated death threats. It generated arsons. Controversial film, to say the least. Mostly because of, a lot of hatred was focused around the depiction of Jesus going off and becoming a normal dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of like goes against the whole thing of Jesus being, excuse me, like from a higher power and the savior that comes down to save, all of humans from their sins. And then in this movie, you basically find out he's just a normal dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was
like basically at the end. There's like the guy that's pumping up his story. He's like, the world's first grifter, pretty much. That's like selling the story of this, Jesus who did some amazing things. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this was more believable than the Bible.
Yeah,
certainly.
I mean, there was still some supernatural points in it as well. Like, when he pulls his heart out and stuff
this
like
is
that.
a Jesus who has.
And the heart scene.
That was wild,
fucking
man.
weird. I don't remember that in the Bible.
Apparently, it is in some some versions or some
Maybe.
interpretations. It's the I can't remember what it was described as, but yeah, apparently that's a thing. I love the water into wine moment at the party. That was so casual.
Yeah.
Where the guy's like, "Man, we're out of wine," and Jesus is like, "What's in those things over there?" And the guy's like, "Water. I just looked." He's like, "Oh, look again."
Yeah, to me, that basically, it was almost like he was like showing off his like magic skills. He's like, "Are you sure?" Yeah,
See, I thought it was the opposite. It was way
really?
less showy than like the tradition. Like,
But
look at all this water. Woo!
I mean, it wasn't like showy in the sense of like he told everyone about it, but it was kind of like to this, between this one guy and him, where he's like,
Bit of a wink, yeah, I guess.
like check out my skills. Because then that like cheesy grin that he did after,
And then
yeah,
raises the wine
yeah,
glass.
he's like, cheers,
Yeah.
buddy, you're welcome.
So we could probably talk about the narrative arc of this story like we often do when we cover a film. But I feel like this is a story that most people know at least somewhat well. We don't really need to get into the whole, Jesus was born.
Yeah, he was born at a very young age.
Yeah. Dies of that later.
He apparently built crucifixes that killed other Jewish people.
Yeah, that was a fun fact that
he was way
I don't
he was
think
way
that's-
closer to Judas than I ever thought he was.
Yeah,
there was a
same.
whole lot of bro kissing going on there.
Yeah. But what I want to say is I think I would rather talk about the sort of the differences between what we normally think of as the Christ story and what is done in this film. And really focus on those.
Okay.
Like you said, the building crucifixes, because I don't think that has ever been. I feel like that's an invention of this story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
I don't. But he was a carpenter, right? So that doesn't change that element. But I think creatively, it creates a really interesting arc for him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so for this one, like, because right from the beginning, Judas comes in, like, he's making his crosses there, and then Judas comes in, and Judas is kind of like almost the good guy who's telling him, like, hey, stop, making these crosses because and I think his line is like, you're a Jew killing Jews.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like Judas, who in the end of Jesus' life is the one who betrays him, is the one right at the beginning who's the good one, who's trying to make him be a better person and not create these, death-killing crosses, right? Or death-causing crosses. And so, like, that was just an interesting twist from like the actual Bible of even when, from what I remember, when Judas was in his like the 12 disciples group, he was never really his go-to guy. Like there was, what was it? I think like Peter or like, I don't know, the 4 apostles are like kind of like the main ones, aren't they? That Jesus is like hanging
Peter,
out with
John,
all the
and
time.
Steve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Judas is kind of like, from every story that I remember, he's the one that you just remember as betraying Jesus. He's not the one who's his best friend throughout, his adult life. But in this movie, it's like they're hanging out together and they're besties.
Well, and I think their relationship is one of my favorite parts of this movie. Where you have this guy who at the beginning, like Judas is like basically he's running around murdering Romans in the streets of Israel, trying to get them out of Israel. He's fighting for freedom for Israel. Meanwhile, Jesus is making the crucifixes. And so there's a great scene after Judas visits Jesus where he's like out in the street and like attacks a guard and snaps his neck.
Oh yeah,
goes off on his way.
Yeah, that was good.
Batman.
And can we talk about the foreshadowing in that scene when Jesus is putting that cross together and he like stretches his arms across there?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's foreshadowing, but it's also, I think, you got to test your work and make sure that, like, if you made it a little bit too short, it's like, oh man, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, but what if it's just a smaller statured man going up there?
Maybe.
Right. Well, it seems like he knows that he is a messiah, but he doesn't want to be, so he wants to kill all the other messiahs. And that was another thing. Like there wasn't just him in this film who was speaking to God, right? Like there was that guy with that whole sex hippie commune thing.
Oh, John the Baptist, yeah.
Yeah, but there were, like, in the Bible, there are other people who would receive messages from God.
Yeah, people were chatting with God all the time.
But the messages they were receiving were like, there's going to be a Messiah coming, right? Like, there's going to be a Savior that God is going to send down who's going to save us all, so we all need to get ready for it kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas
so
Jesus
let's go out to the
getting,
desert and just have a lot of random sex with people.
Yeah, exactly. And talk
Sometimes
to
that works.
the burning bushes and all that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the relationship between Jesus and Judas, especially when Judas comes to kill him. And Jesus is like, well, maybe you're actually here to fight.
Ooh,
And then Judas is like, all right, I'll follow you, but you do anything wrong, I'll fucking kill you. I got my eye on you. And I think the importance of their friendship also works with the importance of Judas as being the man who betrays Jesus.
Right, because it's at Jesus' request, right?
Yeah, in the film it is.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, one of the things that always boggles my mind is that Judas is considered such an evil character to Christians, is that, like, if he hadn't betrayed Jesus, there wouldn't have been any salvation according to your story. So didn't he do what was kind of best for humanity, and why is he vilified for that?
Yeah. Well, and they answered that perfectly in here, yeah, because he's like, I don't want to do this, and Jesus is like, you have to, because if this doesn't happen, then, I can't save everyone, basically, and so he does.
Yeah, I always really liked that portrayal and that take on the character. That he was, in this story, he was sort of Jesus' closest confidant, probably best friend, and
I think
some might say lover.
I was going to say, I think there's more to that story that they didn't show, because the way he comes and, like, just kisses him before he betrays him, yeah, there was more.
I think the kiss, maybe not on the mouth, but I mean the kiss before the betrayal was part of the story in the Bible. John the Baptist kisses him on the mouth too. There's just a lot more openness about
more mouth kissing.
More mouth kissing
back in Jesus' time.
This was before they understood about germs.
Yeah,
before
COVID.
Yeah. I don't see them as lovers, mostly because I don't think, as much as I said on our half cut episode that I would love to have thought that Jesus, got some action, I don't think his character in this film did. Because it seems really clear that with Jesus' relationship to Mary Magdalene, he's had to say no to a sexual life. And I don't think they're going for the message of Jesus said no to Mary Magdalene, but yes to Judas, which is maybe a story worth telling, but I don't think that's the one being told here.
No. And it didn't seem like, even if he did say yes to Judas, that he was like totally with Judas, because he was clearly attracted to Mary Magdalene as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm with Carlo here. I'm with Carlo here. I think there was, I think they were definitely alluding to something there.
That was a pretty powerful kiss there.
Yeah.
But can we talk about, like, the little sex den that Mary's working in?
Oh, God.
Everyone's just, like, hanging out there, waiting their turn.
Well, yeah,
like,
when it first happened, I thought they were just watching. I was like, oh, it's like porn.
yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's a show. And then Jesus is the last one there, and that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But they had, like, at the beginning when he walks in and they kind of pan around the room, there's, like, somebody cooking up some random delicacy there. So
yeah, someone's
obviously,
playing some kind of a chess game or something.
Yeah, like, that was the place to be.
Yeah. Well,
So,
apparently...
Like, why did everyone hate her so much?
Well, because she was Jewish and laid with Romans on the Sabbath was what the stoning excuse was.
Yeah, but, I mean, everybody
Lays with
makes
Romans
mistakes.
on the Well, I mean, that's the moral there, right?
I mean, who hasn't slept with a Roman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be that specific thing. It is still the, let he who is without sin cast the first stone, or...
I really like the way they did that
Yeah,
in this movie, though. That was, like, it was... Okay, so growing up and hearing all these stories that everyone kind of made, talks about and made the Bible famous, they're always very, like, to the point, and you just get the message and sure, whatever. But this, I felt like watching this movie, it actually put things in context for, like, a real life scenario. Like, this is how it would happen, and this is how it would play out in real life. And they did a good job with it. I think Scorsese did, like, an amazing job of telling that side of the story and making it realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think, like, in that scene, as well as others, I think, like, I kind of noted this in my mind when I was watching the Sermon on the Mount bit. But in those bits, you can see Jesus kind of, like, throw himself into that moment and realize that he's got to take action, and then not immediately know what he's doing. Like,
he's still fumbling through, trying to figure out what his purpose is.
Yeah,
right?
before he catches on the whole idea, like, which one of you have sinned.
Yeah.
And then he gets on that one guy is like, you want to do it? Come on, take my rock. Mine's even bigger. This starts
the fact
really...
that he, like, knew that Buddy was, like, cheating with somebody. Right? I wasn't sure if that was, like, he got that information from God, or if that guy just was very bad at keeping secrets.
My favorite bit of that scene, though, is when Jesus is like, I know you've been you've been visiting that widow. What's her name? And then there's the guy in the back, and he's like, Wendy, or whatever her name was.
Just sells him right out.
Yeah. But again, yeah, you're right. And I remember reading that the way they wrote the dialogue for this film was they didn't want to try to do anything that was like era specific, and they wrote it very much like the modern tongue, the way people would talk right now. So you'd feel like you're, I think the screenwriter said to Scorsese once, like, unless you have everyone on screen speaking ancient Aramaic, you're not going to ever get the quality of what it was like then. So let's instead focus on making it understandable and relatable. Mm-hmm. And when you see those scenes of Jesus telling those stories and teaching those things in the way that he does in the film, I think it connects to you because it's relatable to us, and in that way we can kind of imagine us being in that moment and how it would have been relatable to the people experiencing it at the time.
I do feel like there were times, though, that Jesus was super crazy, and
oh yeah,
when I see people who act like that in today's time, I would not think that they are, the next Messiah. I would just be like, you need to take some meds because you're a little bit off your rocker.
Right, but I mean, which crazy are we talking about? It we like when he comes back from 40 days in the desert, like, we're about the axe now.
Well, there were a few times where he's talking about baptizing people with fire.
Oh yeah.
And just like the way that he comes out and says it, and he's kind of got like a crazed look in his eye almost in one of them, and he's like, I'm here to baptize you, but not with water, I'm gonna baptize you with fire. It was almost like a crazy threat or something.
Yeah,
Like, I'm gonna burn you.
At that point too, like it is a little bit culty, but he very much had followers by then at that point. So for like in other cults, I mean, when your leader goes a little bit goofy in one direction, you don't bail right away. You're like, well, I don't know about this baptism with fire thing.
Yeah, let's just see somebody else go through it first.
You know. But I mean, there's elements of that too. I can't remember exactly what it was. Well, but with Judas, I think Judas went to Jesus and was like, first it's about love, then it's about the axe, and now you say you got to die. What's going on?
I think that was a scene too where Jesus, maybe it was that one where he basically says like, I only get a little bit of information at a time from God.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it was that scene or one later on, but Judas is questioning him like, what's going on here? Like, tell me the whole story. Why we keep changing it? And Jesus is like, I only get a little bit of information at a time. But at that point, I think he had the full story. I think that was when he was telling Judas to betray him.
Yeah, that was after they'd gone back to the temple to tear it down, and Jesus was waiting for God to tell them to do that. Then he got the
right, and then he starts bleeding.
Stigmata.
Yeah, the stigmata. Yeah,
thus telling him that no, you're not going to die here. You have to die on the cross. And I thought that was interesting too, the way they framed that. And I don't know if this is sort of part of the biblical story, but it almost seemed like the whole point of going to the temple, pissing everybody at the temple off by pissing off the moneylenders, and then coming back again to quote unquote tear it down, was about becoming an enemy of Rome, because becoming an enemy of Rome is what he needed to do in order to be crucified. It's almost like that was part of the long game of crucifixion. Crucifixion. Do you know what I mean?
I like crucifixion better.
Okay, cool. That's fair.
The one thing, okay, so it didn't really hit me until, and I don't know why, I'm 34 years old, I should have thought of this sooner, but like, Jesus goes in there, and even in the real story of the Bible or whatever, he gets upset at these moneylenders who are collecting money at the church.
Yeah.
And he's like, this isn't, this is a place for worship, not money kind of thing. And yet, in today's religion, it's all about collecting money.
Yeah.
So it's like, if this is like the big story, and like this is one of the things they teach you, it's like, no, the church is a house of worship and not all about money. But then,
but also give us money.
Money, yeah.
Give us some money.
Difference is,
we need your money.
I would argue the difference is, I don't think Jesus' concern was that the church was making money. It's that the moneylenders were turning a profit by exchanging Roman money for shekels, which is what the church took. And so these guys were essentially profiting out of people's need to pray and to commune with God.
Oh, okay. So I can't set up shop just outside of a church, but inside is okay. Like,
I think what
give money
I think
to
what
the
Carl's
church
trying to
is
say is
fine.
like those big time priests with the
like evangelical.
Yeah.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
with the
No, I
great
mean, I
big-
agree that those are
mansions and
nasty
shit.
people, but I don't think that's the message Jesus was going for
Okay.
in that scene.
I don't know. It just made me think of that, how like churches are all about collecting money, yet in the story, Jesus is not happy with them collecting money there.
But I
no,
mean,
it's
but
not
I
right.
mean,
It's
also
not
like
money
if a
lenders, the
church
money
doesn't
lenders, yeah.
collect money, how are they going to do the things that they do, like with their youth groups, their community building, keeping
Same
the
as
lights
any other
on, right? Like
business.
they do
Build
have to
giant
take
houses
they do
for
have to
their
take some money.
pastors. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, not that I'm a huge fan of churches and religions. Todd, we've talked at length about this at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think
but-
churches should be taxed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think so too.
Tax the motherfuckers.
I really liked Willem Dafoe. In
Yeah,
this
Yeah, he
movie.
did an awesome job.
But also every time, especially when he was like front lit, especially near the end of the movie with his like long blow-dried hair,
Yeah,
ringlets.
yeah.
He's like the epitome of the blonde-haired,
Yep.
blue-eyed Jesus.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, because there are definitely, there were people of color, in who were extras, who were in the background, who were there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder whether, like, it was obvious in the intentional choice to cast that person. And I wonder what the intention was, though. Was it to say, like, I'm telling a story that's meant for this North American audience that is going to recognize this version of the character, and because this is a story that is less interested in what is historically factual and more interested in this character's spiritual struggle,
Right.
maybe it doesn't matter. Or did Scorsese just grow up with paintings of blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus in his house? I don't know what the reason was, but man, there were so many scenes in there that I was like, wow, that's the prototypical.
Yeah.
That's a
North
white-ass
American.
Jesus.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
And there was a lot of whiteness in that movie
Yeah, there was.
for a Middle Eastern story.
Yeah. And I didn't mind Harvey Keitel as Judas. I know he got a Worst Actor nominee the year that came out, but I read an interesting thing from Scorsese as well, talking about how he was looking at the Jesus's inner circle as being like, these were all fishermen. So these are all kind of like blue collar dudes who like worked with their hands. So these are all sort of like burly Bronx, Brooklyn type New York people. And he actually cast them intentionally that way. And how, anyone who is evil has a British accent, which is how Jesus should have known that little girl that comes to him when he's on the cross.
That's right.
I was yelling on my TV. I was like, Jesus!
Yeah, did you guys like get that or like figure that out when she first took him off and starts taking him over? Did you think that, or
No, I thought it was like, yeah, man. Jesus.
you thought it was
Get
legit,
it.
like God was
Get it.
Yeah,
saving
I mean,
him?
I've seen it
Get
before.
some.
But the first time I saw it, I did not know what was going on there.
Oh, okay. You see, and I just the way the lines she was saying, and what she was doing and taking Jesus away from like what he had been told by God as what his future was. I instantly thought like, man, something's wrong with this girl. I don't think she is who she's saying she is. And then as it kept going like further into his life in the future, I'm like, man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't call this one. And then bam, I was right.
Some of the things she said are a little... I think my favorite of her lines was like, there's only one woman.
Oh, yeah.
They all
Yeah.
just wear different faces.
She was totally like pimping Jesus,
Right?
Like go sleep with whoever you want.
Yeah,
I
go
love
sleep.
when
Go
Jesus
sleep with
ended
your
up,
wife's
like,
best
in
friend.
an open relationship with
Yeah.
2 women and like 7 kids or something.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Because
You know what? But if that's Lucifer, I don't know. I'm kind of rooting for
Yeah,
that
what's
team.
wrong? I don't get it. Yeah.
right? I'd forgotten about that bit because it's been a long time since I saw this movie, and I just remembered him marrying Mary Magdalene, and I thought that's who he had the family with. And then no, she croaks off right away, and then he's off.
Well, okay, but the weird
The sex
thing
was so good, she just died.
Everyone's named Mary.
Yeah, well, because she's pregnant, right? And then she dies, and then the little angel devil girl is like, yeah, go hang out with. I thought it was her sister. Yeah, because he's like same last name, and it's like go with the sister because she's got
No, it's not.
kid
It
now.
wasn't Mary Magdalene's sister, if that's what you mean.
I thought it was. I thought
No,
it was
those are
their
the ones.
Same last
Those
name.
are the women that he met after his 40 days in the desert.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When they
Well,
were like,
anyways,
when they
it
were like,
sounded
when they
like the
saw him, and
baby
they were
was
like, "Oh
transferred.
no, you should stay," and he was like, "I really have to go."
Yeah, the one woman who I'm pretty sure was also named Mary was like, "Are you married? Huh? You should maybe make kids and stop hanging out in the desert." Huh? Which is why he went back to her. But the kid again, when Mary Magdalene dies and Jesus comes back and the kid is talking to him and saying things like, "Yeah, I was here the whole time that God was killing her."
Yeah, that was a
Way
weird
to
line.
really kind of make this uncomfortable for the grieving guy, right?
And then when that one part where they were before she died, where they were making love, and then the little girl was just
sitting
like
right there.
sitting
Yeah.
there. That was just the weirdest, most
weird.
uncomfortable scene.
See, even before they showed that, like, so they showed the cabin and they showed the girl sitting outside, and then they cut inside to like Jesus getting all the blood washed off of him, and they start like making out and hoochie coochie. And I'm sitting there thinking, is that kid still outside? Like, how good are those walls?
Yeah.
And then the camera pulls back, and she's inside the house now. It's like, oh wow, that's even weirder. Okay, guardian angel, if that's how you roll, I guess. But I feel like some of those moments were maybe meant to tease along the way that this was not exactly what she was portraying herself to be.
Yeah, I didn't get it until the very end. Like even when Judas was like, "You fucked up. You didn't do what you said you was gonna do." That's my best Bronx accent, but
That's your best Harvey Keitel, eh?
but even up to that point, I was like, "Hey man, lay off Jesus. He had a good life." Like,
Thought he was doing what God wanted.
Yeah.
and then it, like all of a sudden he's back on the cross, and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" Yeah, that's when it. I didn't get it until it was like basically spelled out for me. So
Yeah. I do love that bit when Judas comes back and they're like, he doesn't talk anymore. He's so pissed off at you. And then he's pretty much just like, what the fuck are you doing here? You're supposed to be dead. I betrayed you. I did my job. Which, in fact, when Jesus and Judas were having that conversation about him betraying him, and Judas asked Jesus, would you be able to betray me? And Jesus said, no, I wouldn't. That's why God gave you the harder job.
right.
So even that end moment, Judas has got to be standing there thinking, I did the fucking harder job. You still fucked up, you piece of shit. Yeah, but in a way, I mean, Jesus kind of got the best of both worlds. He got to live his whole life, have 7 kids and with 2 wives, and then still save humanity at the end.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think there was a line that the angel devil child said when she was taking him down from the cross. Something about, like, you can live out your life in a dream or something. And so that, like, I'm pretty sure she said something about, like, living your life in a dream. And that
I think it was something about, like, you can let him die in a dream, but then let him live his life.
Oh, okay.
Right,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
heard
yeah.
dream, and so I was thinking, like,
crucifixion,
oh,
yeah.
okay, maybe when they went back, it's like, oh, God was nice enough to let him live his life and sleep with a bunch of women and have a family, but then he's gonna, die. But maybe I just made that up.
But I do think that part of the guardian angel / Satan character's agenda was to try to make Jesus, pull him away from God in general. Like, with that whole, I was here the whole time that God was killing her.
Right.
And, just driving that wedge between him and Jesus. I think when he goes to listen to Paul, formerly Saul, preaching, and she's like, what are you doing?
She's trying to keep him away
You want to
from
go
it.
over there?
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I think she wanted to make sure that he felt like he had a good life as a human, so he wouldn't be tempted back on the cross.
Well, and there was a line that she does say, she's like, do you have any complaints? Like, about the way she's been doing things, as if she wants, like, Jesus to fill out a survey. Like, how am I doing? It was just weird the way that she said the line. It's like, it was like, I've, done a bunch of stuff for you. Do you have any complaints?
On a scale
I think
of
it
1
was-
to 10.
Yeah.
I think it was more like when your
being
girlfriend's
dissatisfied.
like, what, are you not happy with me?
Yeah. But yeah, that bit, the coming down from the cross and having his little fantasy life, and especially betting Mary Magdalene specifically and 2 other chicks over the course of his life, that was one of the bits that really pissed the churches off. To even imply that Christ might have participated in fornication, not just to imply, but to actually see it on a great big screen while you're munching popcorn. Just they did not handle that well, even though it's a fantasy, even though it never happened. But in their sort of take of his life, he would have never even been tempted. He would have never even been.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He was like the perfect human being.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he wouldn't have even considered that.
But that's
And I think that's the one thing about the story of Jesus, growing up and learning all the Bible stuff, is like he was basically just sent to Earth to play this part. Like they don't. He was alive, even if he is a real person. Like if we just believe it for the fact that this guy was a real person and he did some stuff on Earth and then died. They don't account for like just his daily life of doing random daily things, and I think. That's just something, I don't know
Everybody poops.
why. Yeah, but like the church just doesn't want anyone to believe that at all. And so I liked the fact that this movie made him a believable human person, right? That did a bunch of random shit, had feelings, right?
Had doubts.
Slept with women.
Had doubts,
So I don't know why the church always fights that, like trying to humanize Jesus. I feel like if anything, the church should be wanting to be more humanized because, I don't know, right now they're losing numbers.
See, and I would say my guess, and this is just coming from a completely hypothetical place, but my guess is that the more human Jesus becomes, the less you need him. If you humanize him too much, then you put him on par with everybody else. And it's just like you no longer have to have him as your direct conduit to heaven, right?
But even like he's a conduit to heaven, but he's technically not the one that a lot of religions worship. Like I think it's mostly Catholicism that are all about like worshiping everyone and their dog, but like Christianity is all about like just God. God is the only one we pray to.
Well, there's a lot of the evangelical community though that you have to accept Jesus as your personal savior to get into heaven. He's the pinnacle. He's the central point.
Yeah, I
like
guess.
Even if you believe in God, if you don't accept Christ as your personal savior,
then you're still gonna go to hell.
Yeah. So I think we've covered most of what we need to talk about for the movie. Do you guys like it? I know I asked you, Carlo, when you got here, and you were like, eh.
So there were points where, like, I liked the story, and I liked how, it was told, and the differences from the actual, like, Bible versus, of Jesus being this superhuman figure that saves everyone to him being a real person that, performs all these illusions and shit. I liked it how they made it real. Some parts of it were just super cheesy though. I don't know, there was like when they're eating at the Last Supper, and then Judas just like looks over to Jesus, and there's like a head nod, and then he just kind of gets up and walks away. Right. I don't know, it just like there was like certain parts in the movie where there was, I don't know if it was just really bad acting or the way it was written. It did not seem realistic.
Right.
And that just, I don't know, there were parts like that got to me that I don't know, put it down a peg in my ranking.
I do want to say quickly, speaking of the Last Supper, the moment when Jesus picks up the bread and says, this is my body, eat it and pass it on. And he gives it to the guy to his left. And the guy like breaks off a chunk that's like a quarter of the bread. I just watched that. I was like, dude, like, settle down. There's not going to be enough to go around.
So many other people that have to go through.
And everybody else is like,
little time. Yeah, because they realized, but he took all of it.
And it's all done in like one take. So they probably only had like, with their budget, they only had one piece of bread. So Scorsese's rolling his eyes behind the camera going, fuck, what do we do?
Fuck that guy.
What about you, Warren?
I liked it. I did not expect to like it, but I liked it a lot. I liked the imagery. I did not watch this with thinking it was any kind of historical thing. I have no real connection with the Bible, so I didn't watch it through that lens. As a story, I thought it was a good story. I thought it was like some of the locations were very beautiful. I don't know. I liked the imagery. I liked the flow. It was interesting. I did not expect to like it. I was just thinking, yeah, let's just get this over with. I'll watch this. We'll talk about it. Some religious shit. I'll just say I don't like religion. But no, it was a well thought out movie. I thought. I mean, there clearly, like Carlo said, there was pieces that were a little off.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I would give it. I would give it 4 Judases out of 5.
Wow.
I gotta say though, for almost a 3-hour movie, I think it's 2 hours and 44 minutes
yeah.
or whatever, I did not once think to myself like, fuck, is this movie over yet? Like it did keep me engaged, and I did enjoy watching it overall.
Yeah, and for me it's the same thing, and I think, like, again, I was probably 20 something when I last saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I didn't remember it being 2 hours and 40 minutes. So, like, when I queued it up and I saw that, I was like,
Oh, shit.
oh boy.
Yeah.
And this is coming off the back of, like, I watched the 4-hour Zack Snyder Justice League on Friday.
Right.
So it's like, oh man, there's less slow motion in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't really drag very much. I like the look of it. It was clearly it was shot in Morocco, which I don't think is quite the exact location, but matches a lot of the look of the area. I think Peter Gabriel's soundtrack is fantastic. I would probably put it in my top 5 Scorsese's.
That intro song, I've added it to my running list because it was a good song.
Any final thoughts before we call it a day?
I enjoyed the movie overall. I think people should give it a chance, check it out, whether you're religious or not. It's entertainment.
Yeah, I think the thing to remember going into this is it's not meant to be, an accurate portrayal of the life of Christ. It's about this character in this story and their spiritual struggles to be, between temptation to do bad and struggling to do what's right. And I think, even for myself, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a spiritual person anymore. But even so, I can relate to that because, even without having any spirituality or any sort of religious faith, we still struggle with, I'm tempted to do something which I don't think is in the best interest of mankind, but would maybe be great for me for 5 minutes or whatever, and not doing that and doing the right thing. So, seeing someone else struggle with that in a bigger picture sense was enlightening. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is part 1 of our Easter Palooza crossover.
Easter Palooza. Jesus Palooza.
Jesus Palooza.
Wacky inflatable arm flailing Jesus.
If you're lucky enough to be listening to this on Good Friday, you should also be able to find the Good Friday Easter edition of Half Cut Conspiracies when we dig into some tasty Jesus conspiracies.
Which was I thought we were doing this movie on that episode as well. So
yeah, I know. Which is why you delivered the Mel Gibson joke on that podcast to a better response. That should be available right now. We talk about whether Jesus had kids with Mary, as we witnessed in this movie. So clearly it didn't happen.
I thought it was the other Mary, but whatever. We learned something new.
Well, he had a kid with Mary. It just didn't survive.
Oh, okay. Right. All right. Yeah.
Wait. What was Jesus' mother's name?
Mary.
Yeah. So so I actually had a moment at the end of this movie.
It's an Oedipus thing.
I had a moment at the end of this movie where I thought that when the girl took him off the cross, and she took him to see Mary Magdalene, and they got married. They did the nasty, and then she died, and he was all like, "Fuck you, God! I'm gonna kill the earth with his axe." I'm so mad. And then,
well, to be fair, what else do you do when you're mad at God? You can't axe God.
I mean, he could have threw the axe at the sky, maybe. I don't know. Is God the earth or is God the sky? I don't know. But when she died, and then he went and saw the other Mary, I kind of had this like fucked up idea. I was like, oh my God. Okay, so he went back in time now. Because he had sex with Mary Magdalene, and then she got pregnant, and then the pregnancy was passed on to this other Mary, and I was like, oh my God, Jesus is fucking what was Jesus' father's name? Joseph or
Yeah.
yeah? I was like, oh my god, Jesus is Joseph. He's the same
You're
person.
basically saying that Jesus was his own divine father.
No, I was saying that Jesus was his own stepfather.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But see, I was going to go a step further and say because Jesus is the Son of God and thus is divine himself, he could potentially be his own divine creator. So it's that time travel loop of you are your own father.
That's what I thought was happening. I was like, oh man, this is fucking crazy.
Okay,
I was,
now that's a movie I want to make.
But it didn't turn out that way. But like when that
Jesus
first happened, I was like,
becomes his own
oh man, like that's gonna piss some people off. But yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah, I probably would have if any of them read it that way. I don't know if anyone. Maybe it was all a big misunderstanding. Maybe everyone was pissed off because that
Crucifix Time Machine movie.
Yeah.
Well, no, because then when Judas comes and he's super old, then I was like, okay, I'm totally wrong on that theory. But I mean, what a fucked up theory that would be, huh?
Yeah, no, it would be. It is,
They didn't have the budget for that one, so they had to go this other way.
They couldn't get a believable time machine. They couldn't figure out how to get a DeLorean back at that time. Yeah, so if you're listening to this before Easter Sunday, a reminder that Easter Sunday we're going live at 2 p.m. to talk about our other Jesus-centric movie with a slightly lighter tone this time. It's Monty Python and the Life of Brian. Carlos here will be back to give us our official Catholic Church representation. See.
Sorry, I just laughed, hiccuped, and burped all at the same time.
Oh man, that's gotta hurt.
Oh fuck.
You can find us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/banthingshappen. You can email us at Gmail. Banthingshappen@gmail.com. Are you giggling over there?
No, I got the hiccups.
Okay. I'll cut your audio while I'm doing this.
Okay.
What did I do already? Facebook, email. We're on Patreon. You can support us at Patreon, and we'll have new stuff there if
I ever get to producing it.
It gets it mastered. It's all ready to roll, but we're just waiting on some mastering. Patreon.com/blah blah blah media. You can also send us a one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com.
Buy me a coffee, please. I want a coffee.
Blah.
I'm thirsty.
Man needs a coffee if he's going to get any mastering done. Come on. And we have a website at blahblahmedia.com and a merch store at, I think you remember it better than I do,
shop.spreadshirt.com/blah-blah-media.
Yeah. And that's all of it. I think we're done. Thank you guys for checking out this film with me. Until next time, I've been Todd Sullivan. He's been not Carlos Sia. He's been Carlos Sia.
Nobody knows where you're pointing. Yeah, why you correct?
Are you like pointing at your computer when you're talking to me? Like, did you like point at your computer?
Yeah,
like, he's Carlos Sia.
I did gesture at my computer. Yes, I did.
You are the computer. So.
You are the voice inside of my machine.
You will be assimilated.
I'm Todd Sullivan. Huh?
You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
I'm Todd Sullivan. That's Oren Border.
That's Carlos Sia.
That's Carlos Sia. This has been Half-Cat Conspiracies.
No, it hasn't.
When bad things happen to good people. Until next time, go read a fucking book.